Thank you. Mr. Gualtieri, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Florence. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start saying that the 3rd of November was a very important day for Kosovo. People have taken the opportunity to go out and vote, to express their democratic right to choose their representative, and in most of Kosovo, election day passed calmly and peacefully. I condemn the attacks in North Mitrovica. These were not just attacks on the building of the police station, it was an attack on the fundamental right of the people to express their wishes through the ballot box. Nevertheless, the fact that people did go to vote demonstrate that those who wished to sabotage the process have failed. EU observers have been present all over the Kosovo for a month, as you probably know. We have observed all the aspects of the electoral process so far: the legal framework, the work of the administration, the campaign activities of the candidates and political parties, the coverage of the media, the voting and the counting which has taken place in the polling stations. Our overall evaluation is positive, and we can say that these elections represent a positive step forward for democracy in Kosovo. We know that the conditions for the elections were challenging. First, the not positive experience of the 2010 elections had left a widespread distrust in the fairness of the electoral process in Kosovo. Second, holding Kosovo elections for the first time in the north, as foreseen in a historical agreement of Brussels between Pristina and Belgrade, presented particular difficulties and raised many complex and politically sensitive issues. The way in which both problems have been addressed is far from perfect, and our preliminary statement identifies limits and shortcomings, but the overall result is encouraging. In the text that has been distributed to you, you will find an evaluation of the different steps of the electoral process. The first aspect is the legal framework and human rights. We know that the reform process for the electoral law after the 2010 general election and establishment of the Parliamentary Committee for Electoral Reform has since stalled. However, we consider the existing legal framework providing a sufficient basis for sound democratic elections in accordance with international norms to which Kosovo has committed in its constitution. We assess positively the change introduced in the Criminal Code in 2012, which may have contributed to deterring people from carrying out electoral violations. On gender balance, we appreciate the minimum 30% quota for municipal assemblies, even if we know that it is controversial. We think that it's helped to increase the participation of women in political life. At the same time, we know that women were significantly underrepresented among MEC and polling station commission members, as well as among mayor candidates. We recognize also that the representation of non-majority communities in the legislative and executive authorities of the municipalities is guaranteed. However, long-term observers observe that minority communities other than Serbs and Albanians in areas which served from the majority were not always represented in proportion to their numbers. Voters with special needs had the right to request home voting. Only the 4 northern municipalities missed the deadline for such requests. Voting with Braille was available for blind people. The second section of the report addresses the election administration. The technical preparation of the election, in our assessment, has proceeded smoothly in most municipalities, and the Central Electoral Commission had worked efficiently and in a collegial manner. And for the most part, the MEC were operational and enjoyed the confidence of the main election stakeholders. However, the CEC missed some operational and legal deadlines, notably regarding the public display and certification of voter lists. there was low confidence in the accuracy of the voters' list, particularly due to the allegedly frequent instances of deceased persons, as well as the many eligible voters residing abroad. The OSCE mission had a key role in organizing of the election in the 4 northern municipalities, through assisting in the election operation and maintaining contacts between the CEC and the MEC there. Despite many challenges due to the exceptional circumstances, political, legal, practical, of holding for the first time elections in the north in the framework of the Kosovo law, the infrastructure for election, such as the preparation of voters' lists and the establishment of polling stations, was successfully put in place. However, the complexities and political sensitivities of the process in the north inevitably affected the transparency of the preparation for the elections in those municipalities, creating a perception of uncertainty and lack of clarity. Following a written request from the Central Election Commissions, on 31st of October, the OSCE mission submitted a report on its electoral assistance. The use of Kosovo state symbols on election materials was contentious. While the CEC reached an agreement to remove the symbol from the ballots, it remained on the voter list results form and other official electoral documentation, and this created uncertainty shortly before the election as to whether these documents would be accepted in the northern municipality. Particularly cumbersome and neither voter-friendly nor inclusive resulted the process of registration of out-of-Kosovo voters. This basically for 3 reasons: the need of submitting copies of all Kosovo issued identification documents, the tight time frame and the cost for complaints and appeal process. Finally, the EU Election Observation Mission received credible information that the verifying of application by the CEC was not always consistent and based on objective criteria, and that occasionally correspondence to voters was sent to incorrect addresses. However, an effort was finally made to increase the participation of Kosovo Serbs in the elections, and the Election Complaints and Appeals Panel managed to include in the voter list, as you know, another 5,400 out of Kosovo voters, in addition to the 8,383 applications initially approved out of the 41,000 received. The election environment was calm and there was a lively campaign. Despite this being local election, national leader and national issues were prominent. Mayoral candidates were more visible than candidates in the municipal assembly elections. Allegations of pressures on public sector workers, including medical workers and teachers, to attend campaign events for the incumbent ruling party in the municipality concerned, were voiced in some area, and the EU Election Observation Mission assessed case in a number of municipalities which are listed in the statement, which were credible. The EU EOM received also allegations of vote buying, especially on the day before election day. These were indications of Roma being targeted for vote buying in 2 municipalities. The placing of campaign posters proved controversial. A large number of complaints were filed with the panel of complaints and appeals about the infringement of these rules on posters, and in many cases fines were issued. In a positive show of commitment of enforcing electoral rights, as of the end of campaign, the task force led by the chief prosecutor has taken up 16 cases under the Criminal Code of campaign-related offences, including intimidation and vote buying. In 3 of the northern municipalities, the widespread prevalence of intimidation and pressure against political activists and voters constrained the campaign activities of election contenders, creating an environment which was not conducive to a free campaign. The EU EOM followed up cases of pressure on some individuals not to participate in the campaign and assessed them as credible. The media provided extensive coverage of the campaign, enabling contenders to get their message across the public, thus providing voters with a variety of information. Freedom of expression was respected during the campaign period. However, in one notable negative instance, the editor-in-chief of Kosovo Sot was intimidated following critical photo reporting concerning Pristina municipality. The majority of monitored media gave the highest coverage to the most active political entities. The PDK received the most news coverage in most Albanian language media. In its news programs, public television RTK1 showed a preference in its presentation of the PDK. Observers from election contenders and civil society organizations were accredited by the CEC in an inclusive manner, increasing the transparency of the process. Almost 27,000 observers representing political entities were accredited. However, some of the applications for accreditation were rejected by the CEC because they did not have Kosovo IDs. In most of Kosovo, election day passed calmly and peacefully, without major incidents. People went to the polling stations to express their democratic right to vote, including in the 4 northern municipalities, despite attempts by opponents of the election to dissuade people from voting in some places. The success of the election in the north was marred near the end of the election day by attacks on 3 voting centers in North Mitrovica, which led to the abandoning of the election process there. Ballot boxes from the other northern municipalities were brought to Pristina. The EU Election Observation Mission observed the opening, voting, closing, and the count in 460 polling stations across Kosovo. The opening and voting was evaluated as positive or satisfactory in the vast majority of observed polling stations. If I can give you some figures, all over the 38 municipalities, 32% of the observation resulted outstanding to our teams, 54% good, 10% satisfactory, at only 3.3 poor or inadequate, which is a good result. While the integrity of the vote appeared to be sufficiently protected in most places, there were isolated cases of serious violations, including multiple voting, intimidation, and taking photographs of ballot papers during voting. There was inconsistency as to whether Serbian or UNMIC IDs should be accepted for voting. On the eve of the elections, the CEC issued guidelines specifying which IDs could be used, but did not address clearly whether Serbian IDs were included, leading to confusion among PSC staff in some places. Overall, the counting was carried out without serious irregularities, although procedural errors were noted in some areas. A large number of ballots were invalidated for the municipal assembly elections, apparently due to unclear instruction to PSC members, as well as poor understanding among voters. The Complaint and Appeals Panel received complaints connected with voting and counting and informed the EU Election Observation Mission that complaints also under investigation by the police would not be processed. The EU observers will remain in Kosovo. We will stay here until the end of the whole election process and will, in the coming day, monitor the complaint and appeals, the preparation for the second round, and the completion of the counting. A final report with recommendation for future elections will be published at the beginning of 2014. Let me, before giving you the floor for the question, finally express my deep appreciation, my gratitude for the excellent work carried out by the staff, by the people of the observation mission. We had an excellent core team. Let me name the member of the core team: the Deputy Chief Observer, Peter Palmer, the election analyst, Konrad Olszewski, the legal and human rights expert, Ray Charles, the political analyst, Giovanni Caligiuri, the media analyst, Ivan Godorski, the press officer, Florence Marshall, the observer coordinator, Ruth Silva, and the data analyst, Goran Petrov. Then we had an excellent job done by our long-term observers and by our short-term observer, including the local staff, the service provider, and all the other people involved. We have an excellent team, and it's also one of the reasons I think we provided a good report. Thank you very much.